I go on duty real quick. And let me go public because I'm getting ready to get rolling. Ow. Alright. So this is the thing about Streamlabs, a bit of a pain in the butt. Alright, guys, you can't see it, but you guys, I'm live now, and I got Anthony Griffith right here. Say hi, Anthony.
Hello, everybody.
Now I'm gonna come over to my channel. The Streamlabs, I used to have the ability to change the name and privacy setting on it directly through Streamlabs.
Yeah.
But I don't have that option anymore. So what I do is I start my Streamlabs up, then I go into my YouTube app and change it to what I want it to be. So see, I got my live stream. Alright, so now I'll change the name of it. It's let's see, we're in Bordentown, New Jersey.
Bordentown to Dayton.
To get this live and going so people can start coming online. Let's say Jersey and come on. Deadhead, and why is it stuck on all caps? I turned it off. This thing just wants to be a total pain in my butt. Alright, there we go. Then I'll change it to public and save it. Okay, so now people can actually start coming on. They'll start getting a notification, and now I'll close YouTube back up. I could stream directly through YouTube, but if I do that, then I can't, like play music or take phone calls or other stuff without it. Okay, so one of the important things, like when I'm doing a quick check, make sure nobody pulled my fifth wheel. Alright, and we'll say hi again once people show up online. It's a live pickup. I have at least 3/4, even if it's a drop and hook, that's good. But
And you don't have to turn the reefer on until you get there, probably, right? Because you're pretty much ambient temperature with the chemicals. It's not food. So.
Correct. Okay, so nobody's online yet, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this because some people might watch it after it's already been broadcast. Okay, so Anthony had a question about the tandems. Can they fall off the back of the trailer? The answer is yes. And it's not as simple as you think, but I'm going to explain how that does happen. And there are sometimes you will see that, where the tandems will fall off the trailer. Okay, so right down in here, see this right here?
Yep.
Okay, if you look right here, there's a rod that goes across.
Yes.
That's a mechanical stop. So when you go to slide the tandems, okay, see I got the wedge shape right there on the back of the carriage?
Yes.
Okay, so that wedge will actually run into this bar.
Okay.
And that's what stops the tandems from sliding any further back. Problem is, if you slide the tandems too strong, I mean, like if you go like flying forward with it,
Break that bar.
yeah, even if you don't do it that far, what if these things are already worn down to, then yeah, you'll go past the bar and it could just rip the back of the trailer right off. And
How often do you check that bar when you do like a pre-trip? Do you check it all the time, or?
I wouldn't say all the time. I would say, like, if I'm gonna slide the tandems, that's definitely a good thing to, because it's not gonna affect too much unless I'm actually gonna slide the tandems. And usually the only time I'm sliding tandems is if I'm just showing up at a receiver who wants them all the way back, or if I have a load where I need to slide the tandems. But almost never does the driver ideally want to have the tandems all the way back, unless they're pulling a trailer that doesn't have slidable tandems. But his trailer is also not as long as mine. He's probably like a 48-footer or something.
Correct.
Something along that line. So, because when the tandems are further back, see, I can show you on mine. Okay, now all of our trailers, they have, See that red bar over there, that red mark over there?
Yes.
Okay, that identifies the California hole because they're the most restrictive state. So when this pin right here is in that red hole,
You're in California.
yeah. So okay, now these holes are spaced at different intervals though. Some trailers, like mine, are spaced at 6-inch hole interval. There may be others that are spaced at 4-inch.
So you're probably about 350 pounds every hole.
375 per hole. Let's see. Just curious. I can't tell if this guy has 4s or 6s. Oh, he's got 4s. Okay, so see how his hole pattern is more close together?
Yes.
Okay, he's got a 4-inch pattern. So when he's sliding his when he slides his tandems, one hole is going to take 250 pounds off one hole, one set of axles, and put it onto the other.
Gotcha.
Or in other words, the difference between his axles is going to change by 500 pounds.
Yes.
So he has to change it 3 holes to go the same distance that it takes me to do 2 holes.
Right.
So that's how I figure out my own formula for that when I want to slide.
It's usually close. It's usually close to the scale.
Yeah, really, really, really close a lot of times for me. I've never had to put my load across the scale more than twice.
That's good. That's what you want.
When I want to use this method. The only time I've had to do it more than that is when it was like 79.7.
Wow.
It was a heavy load of apples, and I had to move my 5th wheel as well.
Oh, wow.
Or didn't really have to, but I chose to because I wanted it. I like it to be underneath 12,000. Even though my equipment can handle more than 12, but certain states doesn't matter what your equipment can handle. If they still have a hard limit of 12,000, you can still get lit up. I mean, you can still get
Fine.
yeah. And I mean, most of the cops have common sense and they don't care. It's like, hey, if your equipment's rated for it, they're not gonna push it. They won't enforce it, but it just takes that 1 or 2.
Yes.
Hey, the law says this. It's our state limit's 12,000. I don't care if you can take 12.5 on your axles. Limit's 12,000. You're over. So, I
Put you out of service and fine you.
yeah, they could. So I just don't mess around with that.
You're better off.
Yeah.
Better off.
All right, so that covers that. All right, guys, this is Anthony Griffin. You guys remember him? If you guys watch Scotty at all, I believe you did a stream with him once, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we had a meet up here. Didn't get a chance to do a very long chit chat with him because I got to get rolling now. But then we had a good chat in the truck before we started the stream, though.
Next time I'll come back.
James, Carl, R. Giles, all them are, and Mish are all saying hello.
Hi, everybody.
All right, so let's see. I think. Okay, so real quick before we head off, though, and you said you know the industry from the dock worker perspective before, but not from the trucking perspective.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, and then the warehouse you worked at, you had more than one warehouse before, or just the one?
Multiple warehouses, but I worked in a frozen food warehouse.
Okay. Because you were telling me about one earlier where it was, it sounded like a smaller one where, like, I guess in the morning it was configured for...
We had a frozen warehouse. We only had inbound docks. And, we had one shift of inbound receiving, where backhauls and over-the-road loads were unloaded. And they set up prior to the start of the first of 2 selection shifts. They changed over the inbound docks to outbound and put empty trailers in the door, so that way once the selection was completed they could start loading trailers and sending them out to the stores. So I mean, it was a tight operation, but they received and shipped 400,000 cases a week.
Okay, now you said that you basically had to reconfigure the warehouse for receiving to outbound. What does that process entail?
Well, once all the inbound got done, the docks were cleared of trailers, and we backed in our store trailers that were empty. We backed them into the doors, and the loads were all assigned by trailer number, by door. And once the selection got completed, the respective trailers got loaded, and then they got pulled out and sent to the stores.
Okay, was there a lot of sorting that had to be done inside the dock also, or?
Well, with over-the-road loads, yes, because the pallet configurations were all different when the product hit the dock off of, the over-the-road trucks, because of the way they were loaded at the manufacturer. Okay, and to make weight, they used, instead of double stacking pallets, they would hand stack the merchandise to save that 20 pounds per pallet to get the extra merchandise on. But then it created an issue at our warehouse because we had to reconfigure the pallets to fit in our racks.
Okay, so now, because I did one load where I went to, I think it was a restaurant depot kind of warehouse or whatever. It was mostly all like larger items of mayonnaise, salad dressing, and kind of stuff. But it was like a large. It was probably like a 3-page long manifest.
Wow.
And I ended up choosing to offload, to lump this myself. And what a pain in the ass it was. Maybe this pallet configuration thing you're talking about, what happened with mine, of course, what I had was the pallet was completely stacked full of whatever, and it could have had like 4 or 5, even more different line items on one single pallet, stacked about 6-8 feet high, whatever. And then when I got it off my trailer, it had, each one of these line items
had to be on a separate pallet.
It had to be on its own pallet, and it had to be a certain way. So, like one
block and tier, yes.
Yeah, one particular item could only have like 8 or so on one pallet, and then I'd have to stack another pallet on top of it with another 8. Is that the same kind of thing?
Yes. You could have been receiving a trailer load with, say, seven different SKUs, and they're mixed on the pallet. So each pallet had to be broken down, put into pallet configuration of the warehouse, block and tier, and each item had to be on its own separate pallet. So you could have had pallet quantities of 50 that went right into the different reserve racks up in the air in the warehouse, and then you could have had a pallet with 10 cases of one merchandise that a forklift driver would take, bring to the selection slot of that particular item in the warehouse, and put that merchandise on that pallet. And that's where the costs come in. And some people say, the lumper fee is crazy.
Seems outrageous.
But it is what it is. It is a cost, and it's really a cost to the warehouse.
Yeah.
And they should be responsible for that, especially when you're unloading that warehouse's product. Okay, they should be responsible for that, but they hire the outside lumping services, so they don't have to pay benefits, health care, and additional payroll. Okay,
so that's a really good point there, guys, because if you drive in this industry, especially the reefer industry, it really helps to understand this process, because if you wonder why it's taking so damn long to get your load unloaded or something, or get out of there, I mean, that's only the first part of it. I didn't even talk about the USDA involvement, among other things.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes on there that's sometimes beyond the customer's control.
We had a perishable warehouse that we delivered produce, meat, dairy, deli to the stores. And we had inbound and outbound, and when anytime a over-the-road load came in, whether it was meat, produce, any type of food, edible product, there was a USDA inspector on site, okay, that we had to pay for. Not that we had to give him our boost in the pocket, none of that stuff, but we had to pay for his time at the warehouse, that they inspected the merchandise to make sure it was the right quality and obviously the right temperature. So I mean, that is all important, and I understand that part of it. I also understand the perspective from Scott and Scotty's point, from them being a driver and them hauling the merchandise and them setting the reefer temperatures properly and making sure that they check it every time they stop somewhere, because you don't think of that stuff, but somebody could play with the reefer settings while you're in a restaurant or doing laundry or sleeping.
Yeah.
Somebody could pull your fifth wheel pin, and unlock that. You don't think of that. And you know what? If you don't check that stuff, God forbid something like that happens. Not only can you cause damage to the equipment, but God forbid you get hurt or you hurt somebody else.
Yeah, that's another good point he made there too, because about reefer setting getting messed with. Okay, when I was with Sierra England, not so much of an issue here at JCT because we have more experienced drivers, but sometimes you get guys who don't have experience and they don't know. They might see a truck, they might see your truck and it looks the same as theirs, and they don't pay attention to that it's not their truck number or something, and then they go and look at the reefer unit and it's not set to what their load is supposed to be at, and then they end up changing your load temp, your reefer setting to something else. Now, damn it, freaking fly or
Yellow jacket.
Yellow jacket just flew right into my eye. Stupid thing. Thank God it didn't sting me. Anyway, yeah, that does happen. That's one of the reasons why anytime you walk away from your trailer, from your truck, or whenever you're parked, take a look at that reefer setting. If you're going to be hauling reefer, look at that.
I guess the other good thing is that most companies can dial into the reefers and know if the temperature is too high or too low, and who knows if they use the Qualcomm system to notify the driver, hey, there's a problem. Especially maybe when the driver's in sleeper berth, not so much when he's driving, because you could see the light come on, the alarm on the reefer, but maybe when you're off duty or sleeping and they alert you, hey, there's a problem, so you check just as a reminder. You don't want to drive 15, 16, 1700 miles to a customer, and especially a gentleman like Scott that's from California, get all the way here to New Jersey, then they bounce the load at the dock. Then what do you do with it? Then you got to wait to put it in local storage. Then do you get paid for it? Where's your next load going? You're kind of up a creek without a paddle.
And something else that does happen too, particularly at rest areas. You might park next to an RV driver, and they don't want to hear your reefer unit because you're keeping them awake. They'll sometimes come up and turn your reefer unit off just because they want their sleep. They don't care if it affects you. But you gotta watch this stuff.
It may not be a real big deal for a perishable load because you're not under frozen temperature, but if you have a frozen load like ice cream, that you got to maintain at -10, -15, okay, that reefer gets shut off, and inside that trailer temperature goes up to even 0, that ice cream starts to melt a little bit. I mean, it's not causing any type of illness to you, but it is affecting the quality of the ice cream when the customer buys it. So you got to be sensitive to that stuff.
Yeah. Hate to cut this short. I got to get this truck moving and go get my load picked up. But yeah, I had a great time hanging out with you.
Same here.
Same here. We'll do it again. Yeah, definitely do it again next time we're out. Yeah, I'm out here. So. All right, guys. So that's Anthony Griffin. And was it Anthony Griffo is what you was on YouTube, if I remember. Yeah. So he'll probably be on here, but came out from not too far from Atlantic City to come hang out, which I really appreciate. Hooked me up with a couple of things too. Cool shirt, South Jersey Pontiac Club, and there was I think some wipes and something else. So really appreciate that, man. Always fun to meet up with people.
Safe trip.
Well, deal.
You can, I guess you could take Turnpike up to 8 eggs, probably your best bet.
Yeah, go by Loves.
Come back the same way.
Yeah.
From here, get on 295 and run the interstate all the way down. That way you save the tolls on the Turnpike.
Oh, I don't pay the tolls anyway.
I know, but I mean, or you could run the Turnpike straight down to the bridge, because either the Turnpike or 295, they run parallel, or get you to the Delaware Memorial Bridge. Whatever you feel more comfortable with.
Oh yeah, the Turnpike's fine for me. I don't pay the tolls anyway.
Good.
Oh yeah, it was great to meet up with you.
Same here.
We'll do this again.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's Anthony. We'll talk to him again next time I'm out here, hopefully, and I'm gonna get my truck moving here, get my load picked up. All right.
You're good.
Take it easy.
Stay safe.
We'll do. You too.
All right. Okay, look like the chat just took a dump, so I'm gonna have to
restart it for a minute. I hope I have enough cash to pay for the parking here. Normally it's like 15, 20 bucks or something. I have 20. I don't. I got double. I'm pretty sure I have 20. Otherwise, I gotta run inside. Yeah, I think I have 20 and a little bit more. So just to be sure, let's double check that I have what I need. Oh yeah, I got 25 and a little bit more, so not a problem there. Okay, I'm gonna. You're gonna buffer for just a short bit, because I need to fix the chat problem. Okay. All right. Ready to roll here. Let's get out of here. I'll wait till I get my load, or I get to the dock door or something. Hey, what's up, Cody? I saw you had sent me a text, something about you sent me an email of your trip sheet or something. I'll take a look at that when I get to the door. Let me cut this corner here. I guess it wouldn't have mattered, because I don't like to drive against the grain as far as these lanes are concerned anyway. This guy's got to creep through at 2 miles an hour. I really don't want to hang out behind him. Check was 6 something. $6.59. Why, it's been good working here. What does that mean? You're getting ready to leave or something? Okay, how many miles did you get paid for, though? It doesn't sound like you got a lot of miles that paid. This guy doesn't have the money he needs to pay his fee, does he? place is almost as bad as the freaking petrol in Ontario. I look like he's just letting everybody through now because it's freaking line's getting held up. Bullshit. Come on. I'm gonna be freaking held up by. I got like a ton of trucks trying to come in at the same time. It has some freaking manners. Let me out. Get this way moving! Fuck this goddamn show. I'm done playing these fucking games, you fucking assholes. Bullshit. This fucking parking. Great if I can get out of here a little quicker than I am.
You know it's 25, correct? Sorry about that.
Nah, I didn't know that.
I raised it a couple months ago. Haven't been here in a while?
Nah, been a while. Last time I paid at petrol was still 15.
Either way, boss, drive safe. Where you going?
Yeah, have a good one. about paper logs. It's one of those bad things, though. It's there are always pros and cons to everything. It's like there are good things about paper logs, and then there are bad things about paper logs. And then just like like with ELDs or E-logs, whatever, there are nice things about E-logs, and then there are not so nice things about them. It's like if there's a way where we can have our cake and eat it too, where it's something that works great for, or how about just change the rules? So let us drive when we feel like driving, and let us stop when we feel like stopping, instead of setting these hard limits on what we're allowed to do. It should be now. When I was in the Air Force and I travel in my car to places, the travel rig we used basically prohibited the agency from forcing us to do more. Let's say they could only make us drive 350 miles a day. And say if I was traveling for a permanent change of station, but that didn't mean that I was only allowed to do that. I was allowed to do more than that if I wanted to. They just couldn't make me do more. What are we doing, truck? I had a feeling you were coming to turn, because you can't read the sign saying turnpike outer lane, right? I had a good enjoyable conversation there with Anthony. Welcome back here, Anthony. There's a purplish kind of truck right there. Phone's running hot, so I won't be able to interact for a bit. Probably not until I get to the shipper. Easy pass lane, 15 miles an hour. I like how they have those little fine print traffic regulations on that sign. You can't, it's too small to read. When we get up to, it's less than 30 miles. We might have a 15-mile-an-hour curve coming up, but this isn't part of it. Trucks, buses, and cars. Ramp. Cloverleaf ramps like that, I usually tend to do around 20 miles an hour. They tend to indicate about 25 or 30 for the advisory speed. I usually find that 20 seems to be usually a pretty decent, speed that doesn't put too much side force on the trailer. I was talking yesterday about how I might want to check up sort of the Baltimore area and try to end my day a little sooner, and then I can hopefully get through the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area maybe at some off-peak hour. I don't think I'll be able to go through there at an off-peak hour regardless anyway, and also have the problem where I'm about, it's going to be about 800 or so loaded miles. So ideally I want to do at least 200 loaded. be able to get at least halfway to Atlanta by the time I need to get full. Sometimes I'll go ahead and stop at Pilot Flying J. Yeah, just so I make sure I keep up with my shower credits, but other times I'll just go to some other places. So I have the shower power thing for this month, so I basically have unlimited showers for the month of July, so I'm not too concerned about stopping at Pilot Flying J's this month. Probably shop around on the EFS app and see what's available on the route. There might be shops. They usually have. I'll probably end up at a shop for. I know I don't want to pay $2.70, $2.80 a gallon for it though. It's the national average is only about $2.43 at the moment. $2.46 a gallon here at this service plaza. I assume the one across the freeway from here is, or across the turnpike from here is probably about the same. I have to keep reminding myself not to call it a freeway because how can you call it a freeway if you have to pay tolls on it? Freeways are more like where I live, where you don't pay tolls on regular interstates. Who were not watching Scotty's stream yesterday, or last night, whatever, had a couple interesting things on his way up Donner Pass. Now, if you're in his Facebook group, Tara Guerin posted a couple of clips of them. First one was another driver, she presumes to be a Walmart dedicated driver that had passed him, recognized his voice apparently on the CB, and that came about only because he was trying to call out to the westbound traffic about a truck that had smoked its brakes and had to stop, and the guy used his fire extinguisher. So yeah, Scotty's camera caught that, and then shortly after that, when he was letting the westbound guys know about it, the other guy got on and, hey, Scotty D, is that you? check that out if you're in his Facebook group, or go back and watch his stream. It was interesting. Francesca Trucking. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what's it. Scotty, what's that? That's that area you were in, about the 140 some odd mile marker, I think it was 145 or. There's that town that starts with an M. I want to say you had just passed it or something when all that happened. I ended up getting sleepy and went to bed, and don't know where it ended up shutting down. Okay, so 1,000 feet. Now, Tara had explained to me on Scotty's feed because I had asked yesterday about what these sideways U's are with 1,000, and I just noticed it was like a Z or a sideways N or whatever you want to call it kind of thing. It looked like a Z to me with 1,000 underneath it. It turns out it's a crossover point for I think for law enforcement or emergency services people to use a crossover from these lanes to the adjacent ones. But from what Tara told me, the sideways U's with the 1,000 foot thing, because I only see them here in New Jersey. I don't see them anywhere else in the country. At least I don't notice them. Presumably those are U-turn points. Also for authorized use. Mustache is today's stream. Assume that's Scotty's today's stream. Alright. Oh yeah, and then Scotty also got a lot of people have concern about people interacting with viewers in the middle of a trip. For me, the traffic always comes first. And when I do look, it's limited. And actually, you do find that it helps to get real-time help from people like New York City area. Anthony Griffo was helping. Or when I was up in Washington, I had El Jefe helping me, and who else was up there? I think it was Benny El Jefe helping. It helps to get people who are very familiar with the area and give you a lot of tips. Like when Scotty would go through my area when he was still with us, I was able to call him up and give him tips in real time, or with about 5-10 second delay at least. Alright, got exit 8 coming up. 80 is the one I want. I've only driven about 12.5 miles, so that probably good 10 miles, well, not quite 10 miles to go to get to my exit. Lisa, there's a purple Swift coming the other way. Well, hey, Anthony, I didn't make any wrong turns, so you couldn't have gotten me lost. Well, I made one turn that I wasn't really planning on. jump. I'm like, well, let's just see how this goes. Because I-87, it's... Because like I was telling you when you were here meeting up with me, my original intent was to go across the Cross Bronx Freeway, as you call it, or Expressway, whatever, I-95, from the Georgia Bridge over to X, and then take Avenue to Leggett and turn, of course, 87 down right past Yankee Stadium and all that, down to pretty much over by the Harlem River, and then started coming up. What's that? That road that starts with a B, BR or something. That road took it up to the north instead, to Leggett instead. The only real problem I even have with New York City is I just don't know the area. But how can I learn the area and get used to it and take advantage of my knowledge of it if I don't have knowledge? It's just like with any. There's another group I'm in on Facebook related to trucking. Actually, it was a Cedar England group I'm still involved with because I like to stay up on what's going on with them. Since I have insider insight into, well, not insider, but I get extra insight into what goes on with them than your average person who doesn't drive for them would. And okay, well, someone had asked there yesterday about what was it like doing your first time ever driving a truck down a mountain, like let's say like Cabbage Pass or Bell Pass or Grapevine or something along that line. Now, how scary was it for you, whatever? And I talked about how, I wasn't really afraid of going down the mountains because my trainer had taught me in advance. Now, let's see if Scotty got taught the same way because he's been driving longer than I have. Now, what I was taught was the 5-3 technique, basically. So drop about 5 miles an hour and take at least 3 seconds to do it. And then every time your truck gets back up to the top of that 5 mile an hour range, you use the brakes again, service brakes again, to get back down to the bottom end of that range. And then let it work its way back up. And he said he had taught me if you have to do that more than 3 times in 1 minute, you're in the wrong gear. You need to drop down a gear and which will probably mean slowing down too. I got the job done, although nowadays it varies because I got trained in a manual, and when I started driving auto shift, I switched it up actually and started just, hey, I want to go down this hill where I don't even have to touch the service brakes at all. All right, 2 miles away from my exit. I want to not touch the service brakes at all, so I would just slow down to what speed I needed that could handle whatever gear. It's a combination of what gear and jake brake setting combination that I need to handle going down that grade without touching my brakes. It's not the speed, it's what gear. Because the higher the gear is, the less effective your jake brakes are going to be. So 3rd stage jake brakes are going to be less effective in 12th gear than they're going to be in 11th. They're going to be less effective in 11th than they will be in 10th, and so on. So I learned to do that with auto shift, but when I came back to driving a manual, I found myself more often, well, not all the time, there are times I'll still use go in a low enough gear where I don't have to touch brakes, or maybe start my way down the hill, depending on which hill it is, at the bottom end of my, lower end of my range of what gear I really would rather be in, and then let it work its way up toward the top end of the range before I start doing anything, before I hit the brakes. But in this truck, I'm a little more likely at least, than in an auto shift to just go ahead and let it get to the top end of a range I want to run in, and then, oh damn, that car's toasted. Like the whole engine bay caught fire. It looked like a white Nissan Altima or something. the manual. Like, I find myself doing that. But it's a common thing too. Like how, well, the point I was getting at originally with that, I brought it up. The whole thing with going down the mountain is because most people are afraid to go down a mountain their first time. Okay, there are a lot of new truckers are terrified of going down a mountain the first time in the truck because they're worried about the worst case scenario. It's like you don't want to manage driving that way. Kind of like what I was telling Anthony when he and I met up in person, because he had explained how he'd have a lot of concern about back in a trailer, because he's never driven a truck before with the trailer. And I told him, well, it's mainly just practice, and you're gonna have problems, you're gonna have difficulty, even if you're an experienced
car burned up in the car lanes on the shoulder. Just toast.
Saw a car back there. I want to make sure it wasn't gonna. Alright, let's go to 32 west. Back off on the speed a little bit. Take 32 west over to 130 and head north on 130. Okay, well, my point is, whether it's going down a mountain, going across an icy bridge mainly as it was for me, or dealing with stock market or whatever else, the first time you ever experience something and you don't have any knowledge about it, it's a scary experience. Same with when I was, let's see, I want to say there are two left. I can't tell which one. Which lane's getting the extra left turn lane, mine or the other one? Yeah, it's mine. Got a done container trip coming into the inner lane. Alright, Camaro, if you're gonna go right, then get out of my lane. Really, they're supposed to be in the outer turn lane there, container. Dumbass. He had to check up and stay out of the way of my tandems to make his turn, because he couldn't make his turn without encroaching into my lane. I'm not even going to get into the right turn part. I don't want to have an argument with Scotty or anybody else about that. Hey, you do what you were trained to do, or what seems like the appropriate thing, and I'll do what I think is right. I've kind of learned to just let it go and accept that people have different schools of thought on that. And I don't know that. I mean, it might take a long time for that. Those two different schools of thought to merge into one. At some point in time. Alright. So going back to that point though, it doesn't matter what the topic is, especially when it's something that could be considered as dangerous or not safe. The less you know about it, the more scary the experience is going to be. Or the less you know and the less experience you have, the more scary it's going to be. The more experience you have and the more knowledge you get, the less likely it is it's going to be to scare you. You you never want to lose respect for what can happen, but it doesn't mean you need to be afraid of whatever can happen. So like losing your brakes going down the hill, okay, well, if you go down a hill in a way where you never have to touch your brakes, then you just took away some of the big, huge part of the problem. Now, you can still have some sudden other problem, like maybe your jake brakes quit working on you or something. Not extremely likely, but it can happen. Actually, there are times where jake brakes do stop working. In fact, I had to help keep a guy safe on Donner Pass one day because it turned out his jake brakes were not good. He had an older truck, and it turned out he wasn't even an experienced driver. He was my cousin and her husband, they just started driving for FedEx in a street van. I found out they're supposed to be right here in the New Brunswick area this morning. That's all I know. They can't, they're on a higher security load, so they're not allowed to talk about where they're, they're somewhere in the area. I don't, they didn't even say that they're actually in New Brunswick, which is only about 10 miles north of here. They can't talk about where they're going or which direction they're heading until after they're already done with it and on a load that's not so high priority. Why are we coming down to that slow a speed? I understand slowing down for the curve, but shit, 5 miles an hour? Okay. It's like, what, you don't have your container properly secured? You got Mish on here. Is this guy's container properly secured to the chassis? Plantar fasciitis or whatever it is acting up again, so it's not the most pleasant experience putting my foot on the clutch pedal right now. That's the only thing I would say that would be good about auto shift, but it's alright. I'd still rather take my manual even with this. Yeah, no, when Anthony was here in the truck with me, I was talking about how when I worked on airplanes, when heavy aircraft, we usually had a liquid oxygen system. So it basically had usually about a 25-liter cylinder filled with liquid oxygen. I think this is it. Or no, is it further up? Yeah, this is it. I see LT right there. Oh, there's another JCT here right now. Okay, well, anyway, I talked about how they teach us when I first learned how to be an aircraft mechanic about the dangers that come with working with liquid oxygen. Now, if you don't know, liquid oxygen's boiling point is about negative 283 degrees. The only thing colder than it is liquid nitrogen. Probably going to load in the same door as them. That's the same. Well, they might put me next to them too, but it's the same set of doors they put me in last time I was here. All right, we send my arrival call. So we got 0708, I believe. Yeah, 1133. 7229. Double check. I usually don't have pickup number information. I usually just tell them I'm going to Atlanta. Double check though. Yeah, no, they don't have pickup info. It's just tell them I'm going to Atlanta. Lock my doors. Come on, put back up. There we go. Okay, so they said come back in about 10-15 minutes because the guy who handles that department is at lunch right now. In fact, this guy here, he's about 3/4 loaded now, and then the guy stopped in middle of loading to go to lunch. Tell me that's a great way to do business. Not to pick on Hills. I usually have good experiences with these guys overall, but it does kind of make you wonder, like, why would you go to lunch right in the middle of loading? Why don't you just finish his trailer up, get him processed out of here, and then go to lunch? That's just me as an outsider asking questions. Maybe they have a different reason why they do things, and I'm not privy to how they do things, so who am I to tell them how to do their business? Alright, we did test the fire stop. It works well. Meet the family, nice. I think I spent too much on fuel. Well, Cody, take it easy. Okay. Now, Cody, you said... Sounds like maybe there's something not being accounted for there. Again, like I told you yesterday, remember, if you're working off your recaps, you're getting miles. You might not be getting paid for them when you think that you're supposed to get paid for them, but you are getting the miles. It's just when do you get paid? When do you actually get paid? When you think you should, when you really should. Okay, so here's your. Okay, so you got a decent number of miles there. Just over 3,000 mile a week. That's not a bad week at all. So let's figure this out. Let me pull out my spreadsheet so I can get kind of an idea on how much fuel you spent money on. So that gives me an idea if you went over what you should have budgeted for it or what. And that's something else too, like I was saying, sometimes it pays to over the long term to buy more fuel now when you don't need it at a cheaper price than to wait later and buy it at a more expensive price. Okay, so looks like you got 3,044 miles. Okay, 435 gallons of fuel is what I would have budgeted for. And would have budgeted for $1,057. See 5 fuel purchases. You're right up there on the fuel cost, it looks like. $289.83. $146.87. $207.29. $199.95. $341.86. Okay, so what I'm coming up with is $1,185 is what you bought in fuel. And the budget was only for $1,057. So what I can see, you went about $130 over budget on your fuel. So you should have had a little bit, almost an $800 take home. It doesn't really sound like much, but then you also got to factor in you get child support taken out. Now, please let me know if I shouldn't be discussing this online on the live feed. You're only getting 5 cents a mile taken off for tire maintenance. Now, see, normally for me, I can go with I can often go under budget even if when I buy the right amount of fuel. Usually, always I'm under budget. I see $130 over budget, which means you have too much there in fuel costs. Okay, the chat just messed up. Let me get this restarted because I don't know if anything got said after James Ewing saying, "Wow, Cody, take it easy." So, okay, doesn't look like anything new is on there, but yeah, you most definitely went over budget on your fuel. Have you figured out why? Is what you should have taken home, and then on top of that, you have looks like about 165 or so that comes out for your child support. Just a little bit less than I take home. So, or than not what I take home, just about $10 less than what I pay. So that really should have been about a $960-ish, $960 or so take home if you factor in the fact that 165 of it already came out for child support. And if you kept your fuel purchases under budget. Or actually right at budget. And a lot of times I can go under budget. So I have not looked at my settlement yet. I see that it's in my email, but so that's where your main problem is right there, is spending too much on fuel for this particular settlement period. Come on. Open it. Quit trying to preview it. Just open it. Okay, so for comparison's sake, I got less revenue than you, but I took home more than you. So I actually did not run so many miles. I ran a little bit less miles than you, so you had $29.50 in revenues. And there's actually a little bit less than that in actual miles, because you see here I had that Twin Falls to West Jordan Deadhead, basically. Or no, it was not Deadhead. That was loaded miles covering that other guy's load. I got paid more than $1 a mile because it was a local. It was considered local. So only $29.50 in revenues. But look what I took home. So I got fewer miles than you did, but I took home over $300 more than you. And that's on top of the fact that I had the child support coming. That doesn't even factor in the child support. Add in the $175 for the child support that's already taken out. Now we're talking $1175 or so is what I really would have made. If I didn't have child support coming out, I would have taken home $1175 this week. And again, that's only a $29.50 check. Now let's add these up. We'll just say 29, and then not to mention, my truck doesn't get the kind of fuel mileage that yours gets. I'm in a 10-speed. I only get about 6.8 miles per gallon on average. So, let's see. All right, so I had 2211, 5439. All right, so let me come back there. So it's not a JCT problem, it's getting you up to speed on managing your business problem. So if you end up deciding you want to leave and it's just not working out for you, I'm not gonna coerce you to stay, but it's pretty obvious that there's some differences here. Now, something else to keep in mind though, I'm in an older truck, I don't pay as much per mile as you do, but okay, I pay 22 cents a mile. I believe you pay 26, or maybe, no, 25, isn't it, for your truck? Because you're in a 2019, I believe. So 3 cents a mile more at 3,000 miles a week is a $90 difference in what your revenue would, or what your cost would be. So your cost for the same number of miles, just for the truck payment, would be $90 more, but you should be able to get better fuel economy then too. So your fuel economy is going to offset some of that. I don't think it's going to offset all of it. Unless we're both driving paid off trucks, and I'm actually going to tend to make a little bit more than the average person here will. even with lower fuel economy, because my truck payments are less. And what I actually average overall is not lower, not significantly low enough to the point where my fuel costs counteract what savings I get from a lower truck. Okay, that would give me a budget of 420 gallons and a total cost budget of $1,020. You don't even necessarily have to run below 70 either. You can. It'll help you. It can. But you don't necessarily have to. I run at 70 all the time, and you see I'm making more than you are, but just with a less fuel efficient truck, and I'm running at 70 miles an hour all the time. Okay, 137.55. We'll just see how I compared to the actual budget. 218.44. 168.09. 63.05. 344.34. Okay, so what I really spent on my fuel, and remember, I had a budget of $1,020. What I really spent was $931. So I was $90 under my budget versus you were $130 over your budget. So that was a $210 difference in terms of what was budgeted and what was actually spent between what you spent and what I spent. That makes a huge difference, and that's why you really got to watch the fuel purchases. Now, and it's possible your over budget could have been from buying fuel for a trip that wasn't paid, that hasn't paid yet. I don't know for sure. Maybe looking at your EFS fuel history or something might give some insight into that. Okay, so the only load that paid money for you was Harrisonburg, Virginia to Portland, Oregon. And on your fuel purchases, I see your first one was in Racine, Virginia. And then your second one was somewhere in Illinois. Mask something, Illinois. Your third was in Higgins, Missouri. Higginsville, whatever you want to call it. They all went over in between Columbia and Kansas City. Or I'd say in between Boonville and Kansas City. And then another one in Rawlins, Wyoming. And then a final in Boise. And your final in Boise was the most expensive purchase you had. So I'm willing to bet you anything that Boise run there, because from Rawlins over to Portland, it's it's 210 miles from Rawlins to the Utah border. And then it's 120 on I-84 in Utah, but then add another 30-ish. So that's 350 to get to Idaho. And then it's 275 across Idaho, so that's 625. And then across Oregon, to get over to Portland, it's 375-ish. So about 1,050 miles. I'm not sure what kind of endurance you guys have in those Freightliners. I don't think you have the endurance that I have, because I believe you guys have a smaller tank on one side than the other. Because when you go with your your low fuel light on, when you wait till your low fuel light's on and then you max out your tanks, how many gallons can you get? I believe it's probably about 140, maybe 150, something in that ballpark, if I remember right. At least that's what it was on the Freightliners I used to drive, and then same with that loader truck I was using. Well, my own truck here was in the shop. My truck here when my low fuel light is on and I go to max out my tanks, I've put as much as 180 gallons in. That was when I was just about to run out of fuel. It's not unusual for me to put 170 in, so I know for sure I can handle more fuel than you guys, but keep in mind, I don't get the fuel economy you guys get either. So, but I can do, especially going across Wyoming at 70, even going at 70 miles an hour across Nebraska and Wyoming. What was that? Went from? I've done like 12 or 1,300 miles on one tank before. I think I filled up either in Stanfield or La Grande, Oregon. They're on I-84 one time, and I remember the next time I filled up at all was in Nebraska somewhere. I can't remember if it was North Platte or somewhere else, but it turned out being over, I think it came out to over 1,200 or something odd miles before I got fuel again. So from Rawlins over to Portland, you probably would have been damn near out of fuel by the time you got to Portland, I would think, but you wouldn't have needed to buy an entire fuel tank full of fuel. And that's where I think you ran into that problem was, forgot that was the last settlement, that was going to be the last trip of that settlement period. And you bought enough to get from Boise over to Portland, which is only about 400 miles. A little over 400 miles, 425. So that should have taken maybe half a tank. And I would have, you probably would have wanted to go a little bit higher on the fuel purchase in the short, as far as planning for long term. Because what you ended up doing afterward is after you finished in Portland, you picked up in Boardman, and then I think you fueled up again in La Grande or Stanfield? I think you went in Stanfield. Because if I remember, you said you stopped in Stanfield to scale your load as well on the way out of the area. So, and I think I remember you saying you got fuel there as well. And that's their prices aren't bad. That's actually the better, if you're going to stop at Pilot Flying J, the Pilot there in Stanfield or the Flying J in La Grande are the two places to go when you're on that corridor. Otherwise, the cheaper places, of course, like when I directed you over to the Maverick over there in Boise. I don't know what you end up paying for over there, but those can help you out a lot to keep you under budget. But let's just say you only needed 400 miles. We'll just say 450 miles, even 420. Divide that by 7 miles per gallon. That's about 60 gallons of fuel that you needed. Based on how much you spent on fuel in Boise, it looks to me like you bought well over 100 gallons. But again, this is where thinking long term helps you out instead of thinking short term. That got you to Portland, but then once you got to Portland, had you only bought just enough to get to Portland, then you would have been forced to buy fuel in the Portland area. How much were you going to have to pay per gallon for the fuel there? And how many gallons were you going to buy? If it's about 40 cents more per gallon, and you buy 100 gallons of fuel, guess what? You just cost yourself an extra $40 just for that one fill-up. Long-term cost, $40 more in total fuel cost by buying 100 gallons at 40 cents more per gallon than you could have bought somewhere else. So that's why I say I don't know what you paid for that fuel over in Boise, but why not? Just take a look at Maverick and Boise. Because that's going to hurt you in the short term, but it's going to help you in the long term run. That means your next your next settlement, as long as you're still managing your fuel the right way. So let's say this was supposed to be a $1,000 check instead of the $660, whatever. It might have cost you more in the short term, but then you might end up with a bigger than expected paycheck next week because of the fact you already had this fuel that you didn't really need for that previous trip. Alright, so it's a very common problem that people, lease operators, particularly those who drive for us, have problems with. Let's see, Idaho. Depends on which. Let me see. So one of them is 235 a gallon, another's 230, and another's 232. I got the one that is truck friendly though. Let's see. It's not the one off Cloverdale, is it? No, it's not that one. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I gotta find the TA and all that first on the map. Oh, I know, it's easier. If I find the airport, I should be able to find. Alright, so we'll just say 230, 235. What's up, John? Come on, this free electronic signature crap out of here. Okay, how many? Okay, you paid $341.86 total. If we divide that by about 235, even at 235 a gallon, that would have been 145 gallons of fuel. So, yeah, it sounds to me like you went from almost empty to completely maxing out your tanks in Boise. But to say, if I don't know where you would have been able to reach after that. You would have probably had to fill up in the Portland area, and without looking at my EFS app, which, you know, I need to go back in and check back in to see if they want me to in the door now or wait for the other JCT guy to leave. Okay, I'm back. Oh, by the way, that response been with us about 3 or 4 months from what he was telling me earlier. And it sounds like I get the impression he's not doing well enough, like he's not getting enough miles is what he's saying. Whether he's actually not getting the miles or he's not managing his fuel or something, I don't know. But again, it's if you work effectively with them, with the planners and DM, and you're reliable, they're gonna try to run down your clock any way they can. If you work with them effectively, and they'll make sure it happens regularly. There are gonna be times where I don't get those kind of miles. There are times where I get maybe a 2,000 mile week because of whatever reason. Maybe my truck's in the shop, or maybe it's just the freight is light. Like out here, we don't have much that we do out here, so for good reason I sat for a day. We just don't do much here. Same as when I was in Utah. Our predominant freight lane is California to the central U.S. Yeah, and there's a much more abundant amount of freight there for us going between those areas. Probably a bad thing, but I don't like making multiple stops for fuel, so I pretty much fuel at Pilot Flying J too. Yeah, for me it varies. Like I'll get my fuel at Pilot Flying J if I can get it for less than the national average. Hopefully you guys can still hear me, because I see a message on the screen suggesting that you might be buffering. So let me know if you guys can still hear me, just to be sure. I don't want to end up talking and find out nobody can hear me anyway. Anyway, yeah, one of the guys in there said just hang out in my truck, and when the guy for that department comes out, I guess he'll come out anyway, and I don't know, maybe to give that guy his bills, then he'll probably see me, hear me okay. All right, good. How's it going there, Tom C? Yeah. What's the latest with you? I haven't seen you on here in a little bit. Did you end up passing your CDL test now, right? And how's that? This might take a while here though, so I may end up going offline for a bit, and then when I'm ready to leave here, probably go back online and plan from here into 200. I only have road tests left. Okay, so you're still doing it. LT Distribution Center in Atlanta. So 814 miles, so ideally want to run at least 200. Alright, 814 miles. That's of course taking I-95 down to I-85. So ideally I want to get at least 200 and we'll just say 10, maybe a little more miles before I shut down today. Well, I think that's going to put me through the Baltimore, Washington area. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up past Washington, D.C. So I'm going to have to plan on dealing with traffic. I don't know, maybe end up down there in Fredericksburg, Maryland or something down that way. I just don't want to show up so late that I can't find parking. That's the concern I have. Alright. Well, like I said, I gotta wait probably on this guy to finish loading. And who knows how long that's gonna be, how long they'll put me in before they'll put me in, how long I'll be loaded. When I'm ready to roll. How's that sound? So hopefully within the next couple hours or so I'll be out of here. And not really thrilled about what that's going to involve. Probably getting off the road too late in the evening for what I want to do. Then I can run the bulk of my miles tomorrow and on the way down to hopefully all the way down to Atlanta and then or somewhere nearby. I don't know. I want to stay in Atlanta. All right, so. Now we'll see you guys maybe in a couple hours or so. Maybe go check out Scotty's stream or whatever until then if you're not already watching them. So